It's the biggest, they say, the most beautiful, the most awe-inspiring, the most colorful, the most spectacular event of this era, the New York World's Fair. In a word, it's the greatest. Yes, the New York World's Fair is the greatest. That's what people have said. Your friends, your neighbors, your own customers who by the millions have responded to that old folk song invitation of, "Hi-ho, come to the fair." And have they ever come? Look at this World's Fair parking lot at the fairgrounds. 10,000 cars. Count them. What state are you from? What city or town? Look around, and you'll find license plates of cars from every state in the country. But even before leaving the huge parking area and starting on the trip through the fair, a familiar name greets the visitors. And below the name, the most advanced in ultra-modern service stations, designed and built by Sinclair, especially for the World's Fair. The eye-catching circular station is surrounded by 3 circular pump islands. Each island has 2 orbiting satellite gasoline pumps and a central customer service cabinet. Pumps roll to the customer's car as if by magic. This marvel is a first in the oil industry. A world of wonders by Sinclair, the exclusive retail supplier of all petroleum products sold at the World's Fair. Every day, thousands of motorists view this novel service feature. Some, your own customers. Some, the same motorists who pass your station every day. When they get home, they remember the name Sinclair. They remember the fast, courteous service. The idea is to get them to stop in at your station for more of the same. This World's Fair parking lot accommodates 10,000 cars a day. And anytime you have 10,000 cars in one place, there are going to be service problems, all kinds. Including this. A motorist in need is a Sinclair service opportunity indeed. That's why fast, efficient Sinclair help is always ready just around the corner, thanks to special service facilities throughout the parking areas. 25 service telephones connect directly with Sinclair service. Calls for help are answered promptly by a specially equipped service car. This is another example of the kind of service Sinclair is telling motorists at the fair to expect wherever they see the name Sinclair. Across the fairgrounds, there's another 10,000 car parking lot. Here, too, a Sinclair service station welcomes travelers from all parts of the nation to the excitement of the fair. Incidentally, the fleet of more than 300 buses that takes motorists from parking lots to the fair gates also uses Sinclair products. But not everybody comes to the fair by car. One of the outstanding features of the World's Fair is this modern marina. the largest on the eastern seaboard, equipped to handle 1,000 boats at regular berths, and at the many offshore moorings. In addition to private boats, visitors also come by speedy hydrofoils. These run on a regular schedule from New York City. A feature of this marina is an ultra-modern floating service station, a completely new concept in marine service designed by Sinclair. Boat customers are served the way they like to be served, at sea. Another example of pioneering by Sinclair. This marina will continue in operation after the fair is over. Another way Sinclair makes favorable impressions. Impressions on which you can capitalize at your service station. But now, on to the fair itself. Just what is it in the array of exhibits your neighbors and customers want to see most? Well, with some, it's the Unisphere, the world as it looks from 6,000 miles away, the largest model of the Earth ever built. An achievement in architecture, it's also the symbol and motto of the fair itself: peace through understanding. Some head head first for the exhibit where they can see the world's largest outdoor photographic prints in color. Here, 15 exhibit sections demonstrate dramatically the influence of photography on many aspects of modern life. Then there are those who are attracted to a dramatization of the history of electricity, from its beginning to the mighty bang of nuclear fission. And here's the spot they head for, the General Electric exhibit. And these same people probably also take in the exhibit where the wizardry of modern chemistry is presented with entertaining showmanship. The biggest always has an appeal to some of us. And here is the world's largest electronic carillon, more than 600 bells. Our country's challenge to greatness. This theme has a special appeal to many. In the United States Pavilion, colorful presentations trace America's progress from the dramatic past to the challenge of space travel. Some visitors with a faraway look in their eyes are particularly interested in exhibits of faraway lands and places. Exhibits that, through art, atmosphere, and architecture, bring pieces of the world to one World's Fair. Many people have a special interest in the history of transportation. Old and new. You'll find some of them watching intently the steady parade of helicopters taking off and landing on the roof of the New York Port Authority building. You'll also find them standing in line to get a tantalizing glimpse of what life will be like not too many decades from now. And at the Ford exhibit, they will enjoy a unique and exciting trip through a fantasy land of the past, present, and future. Or you'll find them shaking their heads in awe as they view a gigantic 100-foot engine model. And again, as they view a new experimental turbine power car, possibly a car of the future. Fuel, lubrication, Sinclair, of course. 34 million people visited the fair in its first year. And during that year, close to 6 million of them visited Sinclair Dinoland. Not only are they welcome to the exhibit, but as a means of getting more closely acquainted with Sinclair dealers, each family receives a special coupon good for a free gallon of gasoline at their local Sinclair dealer station. These are a few of the millions of car-owning, traveling Americans who will be telling their friends about the fair and about Sinclair Dinoland for years to come. Sinclair Dinoland, in a prime location, surrounded by titans of American industry, one of the most popular exhibits of the New York World's Fair. A world of wonders that flourished 200 million years ago. A vanished world, recreated by Sinclair. Youngsters and adults alike stand in awe of a world that was. Here, too, there are interesting favorites. The ponderous Trachodon, 32 feet long and 14 feet high. 1,500 teeth, and not a single cavity. Tyrannosaurus, king of the tyrant lizards. Not much on looks, maybe, but popular with many visitors. 50 feet from tip to tip, 20 feet high. Fiercest creature that ever lived. A real mean kid. With 6-inch daggers for teeth, he was the terror of his neighborhood. Triceratops, sort of a 30-foot walking battering ram. That skull measures 7 feet. The Ankylosaurus is also popular, if you judge by the amount of attention he gets. The world's first armored tank, you might say. That trunk is completely covered with thin, bony plates. If the situation called for still more protection, he simply grew spears which projected from his body armor. Stegosaurus, 25 feet long, weighing 4 tons. A versatile sort of chap. He won a lot of arguments in his time, but very few beauty contests. No wonder Dinoland is so popular with so many fair visitors, is on so many must-see lists. And of course, there's that face so familiar to all of us. Our own Dino. On formal occasions, he's called Brontosaurus. Big fella, isn't he? 70 feet long. Tips the scales at a substantial 35 tons, which makes him about the right size for a company like ours. As a result of being featured as the Sinclair trademark, Brontosaurus is world famous. The miniature of Brontosaurus is one of the highlights of Dinoland. Visitors make their own souvenirs. This has helped make it a favorite. In fact, Dino is the most popular souvenir sold at the fair. The New York World's Fair. Something for everybody. And wherever you turn, something of awe, interest, excitement, and wonder. The millions of people who have already visited this wondrous fair dedicated to industry, understanding, and peace are a glowing tribute to the compelling magnetism of the fair. And there is still another year of great promise ahead of us. Another year of opportunity during which Sinclair's many activities at the World's Fair will create a favorable image for the Sinclair name and for the 25,000 Sinclair dealers who sell the finest petroleum products to the motoring public.
You're watching Sleepcore. Pleasant dreams.
Right now, at this very moment, as you watch these light rays striking the magnified eye, similar tiny beams of light are entering your own eyes. And it's by our eyes that we are able to gain a great part of our knowledge. Nature has located the eye close to the brain so that its messages may arrive there quickly. Nature has also provided ample protection for this very delicate organ. Here, with the outer coverings removed, we see the eyeball completely surrounded by a layer of soft, fatty tissue and placed within the bony orbit, where it lies protected against sudden jolts. Seen from the side, the protected position of the eyeball within its funnel-shaped eye socket is shown still more clearly. Once again, we see the fatty cushion which protects it on all sides. Note this white stalk, which is the optic nerve, and also these muscles, which move the eyeball. This is the empty eye socket within the skull, with its bony walls inside and the rim of the bony orbit in front. By gradually restoring the outer portions of the skull and also the covering tissues, we can now realize the location of the entire eye in relation to the outline of the face. Another important safeguard to the eye is the tear gland, which secretes the tear fluid. This is an effective germicide which drains through the tear ducts into the nose after flushing and cleaning the entire eye surface. The eyeball itself has a white, glistening surface. Its front part bulges and forms a highly transparent window. In this sectional view, the capsule of the eyeball is seen to have 3 layers. This thick, tough outer layer is called the sclera and serves to protect the delicate structures within. This transparent bulging portion is called the cornea. Notice also the crystalline lens, which is one of the main features of the eye mechanism. The second layer is called the choroid. It consists of 3 different belts or zones. The first zone is called the choroid proper and is the part that carries nourishment to the tissues of the eye. The next zone is called the ciliary body. This is a broad ring-shaped band of thin muscle fibers which play a very active and vital part in the visual adjustment of the eye. The third zone is the well-known iris, which expands and contracts the pupil much like the diaphragm of a camera. The iris will soon be described in greater detail. Here is an outside view of the entire choroid, which shows the dense network of arteries and veins carrying nourishment to the eyeball. You can also see the shape of the ciliary body and the iris. The innermost layer of the eyeball is the retina, a very delicate membrane. The retina is actually a part of the optic nerve which transmits the light impulses to our brain. The retina is the most important and complex structure in the eyeball. Magnified many hundred times, the retina is seen to consist of this complicated arrangement of rods and cones, which convert light waves into nerve impulses in some manner which even science of today cannot fully explain. Between the lens and the cornea is the aqueous humor, consisting mostly of water and a little salt. This larger space within the eye is filled with the vitreous humor or body, consisting chiefly of water with some salt and albumin. The vitreous humor is really a highly transparent jelly and plays a very important part in the act of visual adjustment. Thus, light rays entering the eye must pass in succession through first the cornea, second the aqueous humor, third the pupil, fourth the crystalline lens, and fifth the vitreous humor in order to reach their destination, the retina. Now, just how do light rays act to form a clear picture within the eye? First, let us realize that light rays reflected from any object radiate in all directions, and that as an object moves farther away from us, the angle between the rays that enter our eyes grows smaller and smaller. And finally, when the object has reached a distance of 15 feet or more, the rays entering our eyes are practically parallel. Now, nature has provided that parallel rays shall produce a sharp image upon the retina without any effort, and, as one may say, with the eye in a state of complete relaxation. But if a distant object approaches the eye, the angle between entering rays again grows larger. This increasing angle changes the direction of the light rays as they pass through the lens, so that the sharp image falls behind the retina. As a result, the image upon the retina tends to become blurred. This blurring causes a response or reflex within our brain, which brings about harmonious internal adjustments of all parts of the eye. This adjustment is called accommodation. Accommodation restores the sharply focused image with marvelous speed and accuracy. This is all the more remarkable because the distance between lens and retina is fixed, and the lens itself must change its shape. Now compare this with the focal adjustment of a camera. Here the lens remains unchanged, but the film itself is moved until it reaches a sharp focal image. It is also necessary that both our eyes be fixed upon the same point in order that we may see an object clearly. Thus, as an object approaches us from a distance, our eyeballs turn accordingly. This movement is called the convergence of visual axes. This action is shown here as the object approaches and recedes. Here, in addition, we see the lenses accommodating their optical shape under the combined influence of blurred image and eyeball movement. And now let us look at this highly enlarged view of the lens itself. It has a soft, yielding body and is as transparent as glass. But it also has a firm, ball-shaped central core or nucleus. It is contained within a thin, elastic membrane and is suspended all around by a spoke-like arrangement of delicate threads or ligaments. The lens itself lies between two liquids. These liquids can exert pressure. All liquids cannot be compressed. You may ask then, how is this soft, pliable body of the lens made to take on the different degrees of convexity necessary for accommodation? In order to explain this, let us again call attention to the important ciliary muscle, which we see here in the diagram. This muscle is shaped like a broad ring which can expand and contract. Whenever it does contract, it must press upon the non-elastic vitreous humor. This liquid is confined within the rigid capsule of the eyeball and must, therefore, exert pressure upon the lens. Now, the lens as a whole cannot give way against the equally non-elastic aqueous humor and its confining cornea. So the only part which can possibly yield to the pressure of the vitreous humor or body is the soft substance of the lens. This lens substance is thus molded into an even curve against the rigid ball-shaped core, thus forming this highly convex bulge, which science has called lenticonus. So whenever the image upon the retina becomes blurred, the brain automatically causes the ciliary muscle to contract or to relax until the lens has attained just the right shape to restore a sharply defined image upon the retina. This is the remaining portion of the choroid, called the iris, with its central opening, the pupil. Like the diaphragm of a camera, the iris regulates the amount of light and sharpens the image upon the retina. The iris acts automatically, and so is an important link in the process of accommodation. Its action is caused by two sets of delicate muscle fibers within the iris itself. These muscles are shown here in simplified diagram. These spoke-like radial fibers pull the pupil open. This ring-shaped muscle around the pupil closes it. In this side view, we see the opening and closing of the pupil, so that we may more clearly understand another important part played by the iris. Whenever demanded by conditions, the lens acquires this peculiar bulge called lenticonus. This cone-shaped curve at first causes light rays to become distorted into aberrations upon the retina. As a result of these distortions, the pupil now contracts until the diffused rays have been shut away and only a clear image remains upon the retina. These interesting mechanics of the lens are not generally known, and the facts presented here have only recently been accepted by science. It is well for us to know that our eyes are one of our greatest gifts of nature and are indeed worthy of our constant care and protection.
You're watching Sleepcore. Sleep tight.
Yes, this heritage of service has been the tradition of Burr Davis and Sons since it was founded in 1863. We have grown in that tradition, and our growth parallels that of Mount Vernon, this section of Westchester, and nearby Connecticut, whose families we are privileged to serve. In 1873, 10 years after this firm was founded, fire swept 4th Avenue. Only the heroic efforts of a bucket brigade composed of Mr. Burr Davis and his staff saved his own and adjacent frame buildings from destruction. From the ruins, Mount Vernon rebuilt, but this time of stone and steel instead of the flimsy wood frame construction of the past. There have been other well-remembered landmarks along the road of progress. Here, for instance, is a view of South 4th Avenue after the great blizzard of 1888. Surely a marked contrast with the same scene today. But the face of our town has been changed less by fire and storm than by the hand of man. Before the First Street underpass was built, the 6th Avenue crossing looking west appeared this way, where now streamlined trains speed along far below the level of the old roadway. Here you see the construction of the underpass between 5th and 4th Avenues looking east in the year 1894. More than half a century later, the same scene looks this way. As the next photograph shows, by 1903 the establishment had expanded considerably. In that year, Mr. Burr Davis died, and the second generation carried on the heritage of service so faithfully that from this modest beginning, we have become the foremost establishment of its kind in the vicinity of New York. We are also the oldest business concern in Mount Vernon under the continuous management of one family, represented now by Mr. Burr Davis and Mr. Walter Davis of the 3rd generation. Clients who enter through the 4th Avenue entrance are instantly impressed by the restrained good taste, the quiet dignity of the foyer, beyond which lies a building a full city square deep, with more than 17,000 square feet of floor space. So come and make a tour of inspection with us. At the head of the stairs, an inspiring painting of the famous church of Mont Saint-Michel in France never fails to evoke appreciative comment from war veterans who fought to liberate that country. And in another corner of the upper hall, which leads to the reposing rooms, there are paintings of calm pastoral scenes. First of the featured reposing rooms in line of importance is this, the Williamsburg room, equipped for music and establishing the general pattern for all the rooms in its authenticity of style and atmosphere of quiet dignity. Here are exact reproductions of the furniture which graced the governor's palace, shown in this mural, in the pre-revolutionary days of Williamsburg, Virginia. Next to it, along the front of the building, is the Victorian room, where music is also available, and where again the restfulness of an old tradition has been faithfully preserved. The finest of reproductions, a soft blue carpet and rich dusty rose draperies, the walls papered in gray-blue relieved by a jonquil pattern, make the room truly homelike in a style many of us can remember from the days of our childhood. The theme of the colonial room is early Americana, a study in cheerfulness of color and simplicity of design. The walls of soft yellow patterned with cocoa-colored colonial figures, carpet of sculptured beige, the use of brass and copper lamps, all speak of the unhurried serenity of the days of the Pilgrim Fathers. In marked contrast is the provincial room, lovely and authentic reproductions of French provincial pieces like this period secretary containing exquisite porcelain figurines. All in a setting of restrained elegance which speaks of charm in tones of green and gray and rust. Truly different is the smoking lounge. This modern room needs comfort and relaxation, providing a welcome interlude every now and then. So pretty and cheerful that one cannot help feeling refreshed after a brief period of rest. While the 4th Avenue entrance is primarily used by those on foot, this entrance on 3rd Avenue is really the service entrance. You will note that the Burr Davis name is both over the door and on the side of the driveway. Here is a view into our modern preparation room. Preparation has made great advances over the years, as have all other phases of funeral service work, and for many decades, Burr Davis & Son has maintained an enviable reputation for excellent work along these lines. Today, the modern preparation room plays a vitally important part in obtaining the desired results. Our process is truly an operation, and obviously the place for an operation is a room equipped for these special services. Our large garage right on the premises is intended for your comfort and convenience, since clients can always drive right in from South 3rd Avenue and leave their cars where they will be protected. When the time comes to form a procession, the cars are assembled in their proper order under cover, where they are sheltered both from the weather and the eyes of a curious public. There are many times when privacy means so much to the family, and so we provide this private family entrance to the chapel, making it possible to drive in off the street and leave your car at this doorway, protected from the elements and passers-by. This is the private stairway leading from the family entrance to the memorial chapel. Throughout the ages, music has played an important part in the religious services of all faiths. From this organ alcove, separated only by damask draperies from the chapel, our organist provides whatever favored selections are desired. Or if no particular music is specified, you are assured of the proper selections for the occasion. Also adjoining the chapel is this 18th century family room, where privacy is the keynote. Before or after the service, you may receive your friends and relatives in proper seclusion. And from here, you may depart via the private family entrance to your car, always shielded from the public gaze. But most important, from here, through these glass curtains at the left, you may see and hear the service while yet remaining unseen from the chapel. In this place of solemn dignity, memorial services are conducted. Instead of movable chairs, fine oak pews lend an air of comfortable permanence, providing seating for 200 people. But all these things, the lovely chapel, private family room, modern preparation room, reposing rooms, garage, these are only the tangibles. Even more important is our heritage of service, and we of the 3rd generation pledge the same fairness, sympathetic understanding, and perfection of service, even to the smallest detail, that was established by the founder, and which has made the name Burr Davis & Son, Westchester's largest and most beautiful establishment, synonymous with distinctive funeral service.
You're watching Sleepcore, media for insomnia.
Time when man began to control his environment, he has been plagued by his limited ability to speculate. His failure to accurately predict the effect in the contraposed action. This is the result of his not being able to consider and relate all the factors in a problem. Evidence of this inability can be seen in the persistence of a certain kind of myth involving 3 wishes. In a frantic effort to reap immediate reward, the first wish is often not too wise. The second usually tends to overcorrect. Our hero can consider himself lucky if after the last wish, he ends up just where he started. But there were men whose wishes were not only prudent, but had a habit of coming true. These men and women were artists and had certain characteristics in common. They were seldom bored with anything. They were constantly building up stores of information in active memory banks. When confronted with a specific need, they would call on these memory banks for information, which they would run through, sort out, and relate to the problem at hand. These men could speculate and could predict. They were artists in many fields: architecture, mechanics, medicine, science, politics, and the art of relating factors. It is often not a conscious art, and the degree to which it is operative can tend to make one normal, bright, super bright, or genius. Numbers were used to count, but soon they were also being used as abstract symbols for states of being. Values were given to mass, speed, inertia, and the forces of gravity. Such measurement was an enormous help to creative thinking. Man was learning to numerically relate and to predict. Theories were developed by which the many factors in a problem could be numerically related. But the magnitude of the calculations necessary made many such theories impractical. In the last century, the complications of our society have been compounding themselves, and it began to look as though the science of numerical relationships could never catch up. For a long time in the world of numbers, man has been developing tools to help him handle increasing amounts of data. Something has now emerged that might make even our most elegant theories workable. The recent acceleration has been fantastic. The electronic calculator has already become a tool upon which much of our daily activities depend. A tool which has broadened the range of man's concepts and intuition, much the way other tools have broadened man's range of communications, or man's range of travel, or the phenomenal range of his control over environment. With the computer, as with any tool, the concept and direction must come from the man. The task that is set and the data that is given must be man's decision and his responsibility. This is information. The proper use of it can bring a new dignity to mankind. Properly related, it can maintain a balance between man's needs and his resources. In many aspects, these are information machines, capable of storing, processing, and relating a vast quantity of information. They process information so that it can be made meaningful at the human scale. Computers are generally used in any of three ways. First, as a control or balance. Second, as a function of design. Third, as a simulation or model of life, where we can see the effect before taking the action. As a control or balance, the calculator keeps our complicated systems functioning. It determines the logistics of raw material, its inventory and flow, history and performance of tools and of personnel, production rate and quality, public utilities rates and flow, cost accounting, payrolls, billing, and all the ramifications of insurance. And in addition, presents the broadest possible basis for making decisions. As a function of design, the calculator provides creative man a higher platform upon which to stand and from which to work. Data processing removes the drudgery, but imposes new and broad responsibilities. The designer must be able to state precisely what it is he needs to know. This is not always so easy. He must formulate a general plan of procedure. This plan or program takes the greater part of all the time involved. He must write a concise step-by-step list of instructions, translate it into a digestible code, and feed it to the computer. Then he must provide the machine with all pertinent background information and related data. The preparation may have taken months, the actual calculation hours or even minutes. But once set up, it can attack the problem with infinite variations and trustworthy memory. Perhaps the most challenging use of the computer is the simulation of real situations. If, for example, a machine is properly programmed and is provided with sufficient numerical data concerning a chemical plant, then the computer begins to take on the functions of a working mathematical model of that chemical plant, in which it is possible to determine the probable effects of many possible courses of action. Today, there are working mathematical models of railroad systems, rocket engines, complete reactors, and whole living communities. The calculator is helping to define society's most complicated problems. It is a tool for turning inspiration into fruitful prediction. As an information machine, it has done much to broaden the base of our growing concepts. But the real miracle is the promise that there will also be room for those smallest details that have been the basis for man's most rewarding wishes. This is a story of a technique in the service of mankind.